Sanibonani Sanibonani. Hello, South Africa. A very warm welcome to Expressions. Today, we are speaking about human trafficking. This is definitely the place for you to air your views. I'm your host, Jacqueline Mapala.
And I'm your host, Umqolisi Wagomasango. Now, as the alarming rate of human trafficking cases continues to be on the rise, namhlanje Usisi Yolanda shares her story with us on the show. Take a look at this. So human and drug trafficking are a multi-billion-dollar industry that has its victims being lured into various traps in the promise of a better life. Usisi Yolanda now speaks to us namhlanje ku Expressions to share her story. Mind you, she's also asked that we keep her identity hidden. We've decided to respect her wishes. Talk to us about what happened to you.
I was working as a cleaner and at Hillbrow. And I used to go charge my phone at as a guy, a Nigerian man with their cell phone shop there. He asked me how much I'm getting paid. At that time, I was getting paid 2,800 a month. So he said to me, you can make 10 times that amount just by going and coming back. You can be going twice a month or once a month. It's going to be more sufficient than this 2,800. So for me, it was a job. I was going there to do a job just to collect the clothing stuff because he and his friends said they don't have passports. They are not able to do it themselves. I told my mother that I'm going to India. At that time, most people knew that Dubai is the scary part, is the place where things happen. Upon arrival in India, they took my passport and then my return ticket. I was not allowed to make phone calls. They took my phone as well. And now and then I will ask to call my kids, but I was monitored. All my phone calls were monitored. So most of the time I was locked inside the house, left there only to be given alcohol because they say that we think better when we're drunk. There were ladies that were there for more than 2 months, 3 months. They force you to sleep with them because to them they say it's fresh meat straight from Africa. Initial guy he was like the boss, was the one getting everything. He's the one that used to force himself on me most of the time. Some ladies allow it, but not as per choice, but to survive, because you need to come back home. Most of us have children, family, parents we have to come back to. We went to the factory to get the clothing. I didn't know what was in those clothes. He bought a new flight ticket because he had my passport and my documents all the time. It was an easy path to land in Mozambique and come to South Africa by bus. That is where most girls get arrested. I landed in Mozambique, but it's like the Mozambican airport already knew that this has been going on for a while. Because I had 2 bags, one that was mine, the one that I went with initially, and the one with the Indian clothing and everything else. So they had to cut through it. They used knives and they'd already confiscated my passport. I was arrested.
What was found on you? What got you arrested?
I was found with 10 kgs of amphetamine, of which at first I thought it was cocaine. They went to test it in their labs, and the results came that it's amphetamine and 10 kgs of it.
How long did you spend behind bars?
5 years.
Tell me more about your time that you spent behind bars. How was it?
First of all, we were stripped of all our human rights. They said once you're a prisoner, you don't have rights at all. We were in a foreign country where they speak different language altogether. We were sleeping on the floor for 2 years, and we had only one meal a day.
Did you ever think you'd be able to come back home?
It was a 50-50 chance because we witnessed a lot of things. People running away, some committing suicide behind bars. We witnessed one girl that was put on isolation and she hanged herself in there. And even if you had to arrange a lawyer, they would call your family on your behalf and demand some money from your family and disappear.
What advice would you give a young person right now, or a parent actually watching Expressions, to say that these are the red flags they should look out for potential drug as well as human trafficking syndicates?
First of all, poverty. And there's a lot of maybe young ladies that don't have families and they find love in the wrong places. They get Nigerian men taking care of them, buying them weaves, giving them money, taking them out. And once you get used to that life, you always want more. And then they introduce you to making money yourself. In future, learn to choose your friends wisely. Now, I think I've got a limited circle of friends. I've got limited circle of people I socialize with for my own security and for the security of my family.
A big thank you to Uyolanda for sharing her story with us, and I hope, Kochaye, you have been given some information and insight to make sure that you do not fall into the traps of human trafficking. You're watching Expressions. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back. You are watching Expressions. Today we're speaking about a very important issue around human trafficking. But before we continue this very important topic, we had an opportunity to speak to young people from Randview College to find out what their take is on this issue. Take a look at this.
Yes, we're at the Randview College, just in the west of Johannesburg, where we're chatting to some students, pupils rather, around, human trafficking. Guys, welcome to Expressions. It's great to have you. I want to know, what do you guys know about human trafficking?
What I know about human trafficking is when a certain group of men trying to approach you and then they're like gonna take you home and stuff, and then apparently they're not actually taking you home, they're taking you to somewhere that you don't know, and then they're gonna actually transfer you to some certain countries and they're gonna sell you out.
Do you think social media, things such as your Twitter, your Facebook, your Instagram, puts young people at a greater risk to be trafficked?
Yes, because eventually Facebook, it's not safe for us, teenagers, students, everyone, even adults.
What do you guys do in your spaces to ensure that you're safe from traffickers?
We know that every person is entitled to certain rights simply because they are human beings, and they are rights because they allow us to be, to do, or to have, and they're also there for to help us get along with each other and live in peace. So what we're doing as an activist, we will raise awareness and campaign and educate the youth about human rights.
All right, my brother, let's speak about how we should be shifting the focus, to ensure that the youth is safe from being trafficked.
I think the government has a role to play, and every individual has a certain role to play, because as human, you know you're not safe, so you gotta protect yourself.
So what measures should be put in place to ensure that people are safe from trafficking?
I feel like especially for teenagers, we just need to a bit avoid the thing of meeting people from Facebook and stuff, like meetups and stuff, because that's the hope when it starts there.
What are you doing to ensure that you're safe Guma social media spaces?
What I do is that, I check if this person is real or not real. I check their pictures, maybe go to Google and Google them if they are not scams or anything. That's what I do to check if these people are not trafficking. If anyone gets an interview message or email telling them they must come to Cape Town or wherever, they must just send that email or whatever they got to baagi ba South Africa so that they must check if this thing is legit or not.
What solutions should there be?
Mostly human trafficking happens at port harbors, basically, because they use ships to transport people. So I suggest that the government places people to watch there, monitor throughout, like once a week or twice a week. Just check in the containers whether there are people there or not.
Speaking about solutions, my brother, do you have anything to add?
A lot of youth should stop drinking and using substance abuse, because of that's one of the things that drives to human trafficking and people getting lost, because of they're addicted to things that they can't afford. So they go into things that might be cheaper, but also at the same time put them in danger into getting lost and doing things that are not right.
So as we have this conversation on human trafficking, we're speaking to a young person, Ulwazi Wagamdluli, who decided to take up a cause on human rights because he's so passionate about what has been happening in the country. We want to find out why he's done that. And we also want to look at this topic that we're speaking about purely from the perspective of Umuntu Musha. Let's have a conversation with him. Ulwazi, thank you so much for your time and expressions.
Thank you for your time.
Great to have you.
How does this particular topic make you feel?
I'm very, very outraged, because when you tell people there is trafficking going on, people think it's a myth. So it is hard to fight for something you do not know. It's hard to fight for something that does not affect you. So that alone made me take a stand as a young person to say there is a lack of activism in the human trafficking sector. So let me join this fight.
Would you convince Umuntu Musha Obugele Expressions Njengamanje to perhaps consider taking a similar course as yours?
So these courses, they teach about human rights. So people know they have rights, but they don't know what those rights are. So it's hard for you to stop an infringement on your right, whereas you don't know you have that particular right. And most of the time, the oppressor, the one who infringes on your right, they know that you have that right. But you, as a person who is not knowledgeable about that, you do not know. People think that people join things like brothels and prostitution and all of those things by choice, but most of the time it's not even by choice. People are tricked and then they are caught inside quicksand. Every time they move, they sink deeper, they sink deeper. And then other people, when you ask for help, will judge that person, firstly. And then when you judge that person, you've already lost it. See, because that person is coming to you for help. That person is caught in a web. No one wants to sell their bodies for money. And money they don't receive, money that goes to other people. So it doesn't make sense. So people should stop judging people who are selling their bodies on the streets, because those people are trapped. The biggest problem in the human trafficking field is that people don't want to learn. People don't want to hear until it affects them, until it affects their families. That is when they try to look for help. And they won't get any help because they too were ignorant when other people were looking for help.
What do you think is making South Africans so gullible to all these human trafficking syndicates, in your view as a young person?
Our youth, they like flashy things, flashy life. As an unemployed person, if you go on the internet and you find a job offer overseas, things like that, you are quick to apply you without even checking if that thing is legit or not. Because a lot of people, that's how they've been trafficked. Another thing, South Africa, this free visa policy, they need to revise that policy, because that policy is making it easier for these people to conduct their illegal dealings. You see, because you can just take a flight now and go to Brazil. No questions asked, only if you have money. What does that tell you? Even the traffickers are finding it easy to do what they are doing.
That was extremely informative. A big thank you to Ulwazi, who is a human rights activist as well as student. And I hope, Gochaye, you are encouraged to learn more. We continue with this also important conversation around human trafficking. We'll be back right after this. You're watching Expressions.
The grade 12 pupil still traumatized. She was snatched on her way home from a shop Sunday afternoon. She was bundled into a back seat of a car next to another young girl who appeared unconscious. She says she was sprayed with an unknown substance and then blacked out.
ngifika kule ndlu leyo abasise kuyo nalentombazana le enye mangiphapha kunabanye amantombazana.
The next thing I knew, I was at the house with the girl that was in the car and the two men. The house was filled with other girls. I was told not to panic and to make noise. These men later brought us food, and they would inject water they gave us with some sort of drugs right in front of us. The girls seemed to have been destined for a faraway country.
They said that
they would not rape us. They said that the number of young girls that they needed isn't enough, so they will keep hunting for other girls. And then only will they take us to Pretoria, and after we get to Pretoria, they will take us overseas. The next day, she managed to escape through a window without burglar bars. She got help at Leratong Hospital.
Okay, so you just saw that video. I want to know from you, do you feel safe as a young person?
No, I don't, because police officers sometimes don't take this matter seriously because they can't differentiate between kidnapping and human trafficking. So when you go to a police station and report that you were involved in this matter, they just think that you were actually kidnapped, not human trafficking. So actually, I feel like they need to take this matter also seriously and put it into consideration as well.
The police need some training of human rights and about human trafficking. They really need training because they don't know the difference. If you are kidnapped, they're putting the case as you are missing. What's that? Doesn't make sense. They need training of human rights and human trafficking. They really need training about this.
The video for me, it was really depressing, and I think that the police need to act up. And since the borders are opening, the president need to tighten the security. And since we are the activists for the Youth Human Rights and International, we'll go around in the society and educate the youth about their human rights and to make them aware that this human trafficking it exists here in South Africa.
The girls should take care of themselves, and they should always check their surroundings and be safe. And also, do not trust anyone. Don't.
So Gloria Mattabile is the CEO and founder of Baagi South Africa, and she works with over 80 young adults who also in the space of human rights. She also uses this platform to also highlight the importance of being aware about human and drug trafficking. Let's hear the story. Human trafficking has been a very hot topic in the country. And I want to know from you today, what does Baagi do?
Okay, Baagi is an NPO organization advocating for victims who are tricked and exploited into drug trafficking and human trafficking. So what we do, we educate the youth and mostly the community about the dangers of human trafficking, as well as the scams and the tricks that are used by syndicates to lure unsuspecting victims.
Why is it important for people to be in touch with Baagi?
It's important for people to be in touch with Baagi because police, when you go and report a case, they take it as a kidnapping case. If a child goes missing, then it's about a week. There is a possibility that the child could be in a brothel. A child could be either used somewhere, maybe somebody picked them up and then they are using them somewhere in the fields, child labor somewhere. Or either the child has been taken for body parts harvesting. Recently, we're having cases from a lot of young people applying for jobs online. And then only when they get to a foreign country, that's when they are forced to traffic drugs.
So do you think our government is doing enough to curb human trafficking?
We can't say our government is doing enough. Human trafficking is happening. And then just recently, now 2 days back, we saw on SABC News that there were 10 girls that were found and there were 2 men who were arrested. So those girls were in a brothel. So on its own, it shows that even our government is not taking human trafficking seriously. Because when you speak about human trafficking, it's like you are speaking about something that is happening somewhere in Africa, like Sierra Leone, Congo, whatever. But human trafficking is happening in our country. We have a lot of people who are currently, because of this COVID-19, a lot of young people were applying online. Most of them
For jobs.
For jobs. Most of them is jobs in the UK for au pair. Others it's in the cruise ships and all that. So you can just imagine how many young people are ready to fly out of the country, not knowing what's going to happen to them.
What are the red flags, the hallmark red flags that a person needs to look out for?
Okay, when it comes to jobs application, the first red flag you need to look out for is when they are offering you free flight tickets, free accommodation, huge salary packages, and at the same time, you are not even qualified for that job, or you don't even have certificate or whatever for that position you applied for.
Why is South Africa so vulnerable to these human trafficking syndicates?
South Africa is so vulnerable to human trafficking syndicates because first thing first, the security of the country on its own is weak. That's how I can say it. It's very weak. Our online, actually, there is no security. So anyone, you can just go online and end up finding yourself talking to someone you don't even know. And if only our government can put up a security whereby if you go online, then there must be, a message that will pop up on the screen to say this is a scam. Even when you're applying a job, a message that will pop up to say this is a scam. We're buying cell phones, but no one has ever taught us about online safety. The only safety tip that you are told about is that how to handle your phone. Make sure that it doesn't fall. But who teaches the kids about the safety? Don't talk to people you don't know online. If someone is asking you for a friend request, reject that person. Who's teaching the kids about that? It's about time that service providers as well comes and work with organizations like us, because us, we are on the line, like we are every day on the ground, and we are the ones who are receiving calls from parents saying, my child went missing. We checked the child was on Facebook. Where is Facebook at that time? Is Facebook going to be able to help as well the parents to be able to trace where their child are, where their child is? Because I feel service providers as well, they are just making money out of us as well as South African citizens. But what is it that they can offer back to the people? They need to come up with a solution to say, let us cap this issue of online, because this is where the high risk is.
So we've come to the end of our show, and we hope you, Kochaye, that not only was today's show insightful for you, but it was also informative. And we want to say a big thank you to our case studies, people like Uyolanda, who were courageous enough to share their stories with us. And I hope, Kochaye, that you've had some takeaways and some gold nuggets that hopefully will help you to avoid being a victim of human trafficking in this country. Stay safe, young person. Stay safe.
Yeah, and it's very important for you to keep an eye out there for everything that you do, whether it is on social media or in any other space that you are in touch with. We thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your participation in Kundlan Zethu Zokuxhumana. From all of us here at Expressions, Nsale kahle.
Adios. Thanks for watching. Bye.